I want to now bring in Jonas Max Ferris to talk more about this. You know, Jonas, the administration passes a $108 billion deal between the world's #1 and #2 brewers, neither one of them American companies anymore, but he rejects Office Depot and Staples, struggling to stay alive. How do you square that circle?
Who doesn't like beer and who doesn't hate their health insurance company? Or who doesn't hate oil companies? That's really, I think it's coming from popularity with the voters, which is kind of a weird, perverse way to do antitrust.
I like beer, but I don't understand why we would be okay with the two biggest behemoths in the beer market world. If the idea is to stop monopolies, the #1 and #2, a $100 billion deal, but a $6 billion deal between two companies struggling against the internet, two American companies. I don't get it. I don't think that's popular. I think if you went out and told the average person on the street, hey, we don't have a problem with two foreign beer companies getting even larger and crushing our businesses, well, but how about these small American businesses?
If there's an explanation, it's because the consumer is more focused on microbreweries and liquor at this point, such that just because all the kind of mass market beers are even controlled by just a few companies, it wouldn't be a huge deal. It's relatively easy today to enter the market as a startup brewer. It's not like the old days with slotting fees where Pepsi and Coke controlled the whole, like anybody almost can start a microbrewery and get distributed by Whole Foods and all these local, everyone's into craft stuff. So there's an explanation for it. I still think they're wrong and they're missing the real areas that need antitrust investigation, and they're focusing on areas that don't. I mean, the whole reason to stop companies from merging is to make competition, right? Healthcare has a lot of competition, and 30, 40 years ago, this wouldn't have been the case, but today, Oscar is a startup healthcare company that raised $1/3 billion to compete against these companies. That's the kind of venture capital you couldn't have raised 50 years ago, and that's when the Justice Department had to prevent one company taking over the whole industry and blocking competition. But today, with so much rich capital markets, you really can compete with even if there was just 3 major healthcare companies. Plus, the government's in healthcare and controls most of it, so that's a large player, too, to offset any large corporate player, too.
I just can't accept their explanation that they care so much about competition when they crafted Obamacare without allowing intrastate competition, without taking out some of these legal components that make it really tough for anyone who wants to enter that business. Well, you talked about barrier to entries. How can this administration justify any of these deals that they've squashed and let another deal go by that could conceivably send prices much higher? Well, the startup Oscar Healthcare
lost almost $100 million just in New York State, largely because of affordable health care rules. So they're definitely making it actually difficult to enter as a startup in the healthcare arena with all the rules and regulations. That said, the government's done almost nothing in the tech area. You got like Facebook rolling up, WhatsApp, Instagram. No one cares about those more. We all love the tech companies, but really where the antitrust looking should be is that these tech companies are actually controlling networks, taking our information, making profits off our personal behavior with very little control by us. That's really where the consumer is getting taken advantage of in a bizarre way, not so much in the oil, the healthcare, the oil. Those are old-fashioned battles that we can be a little less harsh on, and we really need to focus on these popular companies and what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of antitrust legislation to begin with, because I think ultimately the markets do prevail, and I believe in creative destruction. Jonas, thanks a lot. I really appreciate your help on this.
Thanks.